But let's start talking about George Floyd's tragedy and what do you guys think can be one of the solutions in terms of black communities? How can we ensure that economic development takes place and local economies are developed instead of developing mainly urban centers? Daniel, do you want to start?
Well, as far as what can be done to help the situation, obviously, law enforcement has been excessively militarized. I mean, they're a big purchaser of military surplus things, and that is a more recent phenomenon. But obviously, that wasn't the source of the problem. But that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Um, I mean, it reflects an attitude, really, that they feel like they need this sort of equipment that, when in reality they don't, and even chokeholds really are excessive, and it's a good thing that there's talk about them being banned, because you don't want to give the impression that the police are at war with their own citizenry. That's not healthy to the situation at all.
Okay, Astrid, what do you think about it?
Actually, this incident reminded me of a scandal that happened in my law school a few years ago. A Arabic student from law school was who just completed his LLM program was shot by the police officer when the officer was after the officer was chasing after him on the highway, and he got scared in the midnight, and he ran into the woods, and without even prior notice, the police officer just shot him, probably because of his race. He's Arabic and he's Muslim, and the law school since then has been trying to voice for the justice on behalf of that Arabic student, but it's really hard to actually sue any police officer for injustice in this country. There aren't many previous case laws that is in favor of suing the police officer. So I would say in the future, I don't know about economic development because I think it's a really complex idea, but as a law student, I would say at least in the future, I think the prosecutors, they need to have a more independent voice for Black people, for the injustice that they might encounter in the future. It's always possible that someone will make mistake again in the future, but it's better to just assure Black people that they can have a solid solution or someone to go to if they feel like they have been treated unequally. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Thank you, Astrid. What about you, Junior?
Me? I mean, just going back off, I guess, what Astrid, and that's how you say her name. Just going back off what she said. There are several initiatives that they currently have in the works in a lot of various states, and they are implementing them from a legal perspective. Or, for example, I know that recently in Atlanta, I think it was Atlanta, Seattle, and a couple other cities in the U.S., given what's going on right now, the mayor and the district attorneys in those various cities, they started implementing specific policies and executive orders to make sure that there are independent judicial bodies that would, I guess, investigate the police instead of the police investigating themselves. Because for a long time, the reason why a lot of, I guess, hate crime against Black people has occurred, and without any real consequences on, in regards to the policing, is because the police often police themselves, so now that there are executive orders and then there are independent bodies that will investigate these types of incidences, I think that going into the future is going to be less of an occurrence of these types of things happening. And hopefully that eventually, the goal is eventually it gets to a point where the federal government steps in and take those similar approach. But right now there's a lot of partisanship, obviously, so it's going to be hard in the near future to see it. But hopefully maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe the next president may have a different perspective about how the police function in these various communities, especially majority black communities.
Actually, today, now that you've mentioned the president, today he signed an executive order that says that chokeholds will be prohibited. So what do you think about that?
Well, that's I guess I feel like that is the start. It's better than nothing.
Right.
But I feel like as a being the president and having the platform that he has and the amount of power that he has, I felt like that's something that he should have gone beyond, right? Just chokehold. Obviously, that isn't really what is killing black people, right? The majority of killing is happening because of guns, right? So we need to look at how do we prevent cops from utilizing their weapons and damn near in every circumstances. Like I know in Atlanta a few days ago, the guy was, I guess, drunk and he was sleeping in his car at a drive-through. I think it's like a McDonald's drive-through or Wendy's drive-through. And the police came and asked him, like, is he okay? Because he was just in the drive-through and not moving, and people had to keep going around him. So someone, I guess, called the police on him. And then when the police came, they opened it, they knocked on his window, like,
right.
Is he okay? Whatever the case is. And he basically was like, yeah, I'm tired and I feel like I had a little bit too much to drink, but that's why I'm like just sleeping it off right now, and then hopefully I feel better eventually, and whatever. And the cops were at that point trying to give him like the test that you have to go through when you're drunk.
Right.
And during that test, apparently he failed the breathalyzer, and when he failed the breathalyzer, they realized, like, well, we can arrest him now because we don't want him to be in danger to the society by going back in his car and drive. And then he said to the police, well, right now, my sister lives like 10 minutes away. I could just walk to her. I won't have to get in the car and drive, so I won't be a threat to no one. And the police said, no, we're not going to let you do that. We're going to arrest you. So mind you, he is drunk at that moment, right? So he doesn't have the proper, he's not properly oriented what's going on.
Right.
So he becomes aggressive towards the police when they try to put him in handcuffs. In that example, for example, right, in that situation, the police tasers him, right? So which means at that point, he can't really be a threat to the police at that point, right? So there's several things that could have happened. One, the police could have told him, well, we understand that, you're drunk and whatever the case is, you say your sister lives near, we'll drive you to your sister.
Right, yeah.
We will, like, the police is supposed to be the guardians of the people, not looking at people as a threat, right? You know what I'm saying?
Like villains.
Like villains, exactly. In that moment, the police could have said, if you say your sister lives nearby, we'll drive you to your sister. And I feel like in most circumstances, this might sound racial, but in most circumstances, if it was a white person, they'll probably offer that option, right? They would say, yes, we will drive you to your sister's house.
Right.
But in this case, no, you're a black person. We view you as a threat. We're going to arrest you, right? For no reason, because you're drunk. Like, he didn't hit no one. He was in drunk driving in that specific moment when they came to arrest him. So I feel like there's so many other things that could have happened. And they ended up shooting him because he was running away, right? He wasn't posing a threat. They shot him in his back as he was running away. So that's what I'm saying. There's so many of those incidences that is happening, and often it's because of guns. So we should look at guns and not just chokeholds or whatever other methods that they're trying to, I guess, ban right now.
Regan, what do you think?
I definitely think you hit on a lot of points. I think training and the weapons that they have are big issues. I don't think a lot of people have seen like the training that they've gone through, and they barely go through anything. And to be in I guess coming from a military standpoint, I've gone through 3 years, 4 years of training to go into the military, and then after that, I still have 2 more years of training, and I will never carry a weapon in a civilian area. But I've gone through so much more training than a police officer who is carrying a weapon in a civilian area. And I think that that's one huge issue, is like they need so much more training. I think you hit on that, the whole concept of the police priority, like checking over what they're doing and like hiding it. The man who killed George Floyd, I don't know if you guys looked at his track record, but he had so many cases previously, like 8 to 10 cases of
misconduct.
Exactly, misconduct, being racist, violating other people's rights, and they didn't do anything. Like the 8 to 10 cases, one case you should be kicked out automatically, not 8 to 10, and then killing someone, and we don't even know, maybe he has killed someone previously, but there's no
data to show that.
Exactly, and they just cover everything up. And so I think definitely having someone to track what they're doing, and then having an organization to train them better and properly. And the other thing, going back to like the businesses, is I think having more loans or more ways for blacks to open up businesses, because if you've seen like a lot of the facts behind the economy, they don't give a lot of loans out to African Americans, blacks, and it's hard for them to even start a company. And also big corporations, like I don't know if you guys have seen like some of the things like Target is saying, here's some black companies that we've bought, and they use at Target and stuff like that. But there's very few. If you see, there's like 10 companies that you can go to Target and buy, but like most of the products are big companies or white people or other, like, but there's so little like ways to support black companies.